You're seeing this message right now because something deep inside you knew it was time to receive it. It's like when you think of someone and suddenly they call. It isn't coincidence, it's synchronization. Your subconscious has been searching for answers, and that search created a magnet that pulled you here. Statistically, only a small fraction of people develop the sensitivity to notice the subtle signals life is constantly sending. But you have. Think of your life as a series of choices shaping a unique path. Every time you chose growth over stagnation, courage over fear, intuition over logic, you were creating an energetic signature. It's like tuning a radio, adjusting the dial until the right frequency comes through. You've already noticed this principle. When your mind is calm and clear, good things seem to align in your favor. But when you're stressed or anxious, life feels heavy and chaotic. That isn't your imagination. It's how reality responds to your frequency. If this message already resonates in your field, subscribe, like this video, and comment. My timeline is activated below. Stay with me, because before this is over, you will understand why your past silence, your present distortion, and your future clarity are all part of the same shift. Number 1. The distorted mirror. The first sign of a quantum jump is often not clarity but distortion. When synchronicities vanish, when the numbers stop appearing, when dreams turn quiet, it feels like abandonment. But it is the field reorganizing. Physicists call this an interference pattern, where two waves collide, and what appears as chaos is the prelude to coherence. Your life mirrors this. The static is not failure, it is proof that the old signal has collapsed. The confusion you felt is not proof of weakness, but the dissolving of echoes that no longer belong to you. Comment, I align with the shift, if you've ever felt this vanishing and now recognize it as preparation. Because when the mirror distorts, the hidden frequency begins to rise. A dream lingers like mist, half forgotten but heavy with meaning, where the reflection in the mirror ripples and refuses to stay still. You lean closer, and instead of seeing absence, you sense a pattern rearranging behind the distortion. This is not madness, not loss, but the collapse point where probabilities fold in on themselves, preparing to select coherence. The seeker of the shift feels this as unease, as if the edges of reality no longer quite fit the way they once did. It is the shiver in the air before the lightning cracks open the night. What has always been hidden begins to signal itself through silence, through vanishing signs, through mirrors that no longer reflect but refract. The distortion is not punishment, it is initiation into awareness. There are moments when you felt so different from those around you that it hurt to stay in the same room. You sensed the heaviness before anyone else noticed it, and you wondered why your body reacted like an antenna to every subtle vibration. When people smiled, you sometimes caught the dissonance in their eyes, as if their words and their frequency never matched. Nights pressed against you with restless energy, not because you were broken, but because you were tuned too finely to the static of an old timeline. Perhaps you walked into spaces and felt the time bend, minutes stretching too long or snapping too short, and you thought it was your imagination. But what you carried was resonance too sharp to ignore, a signal that revealed itself through your sensitivity. And though the world tried to call it weakness, it was the very proof that your field was recalibrating. Every emotion that once felt like confusion was never random, never wasted. It was architecture hidden beneath the visible world, shaping you in silence. Think of the emerald tablet's ancient wisdom, as above, so below, etched into your being long before you could give it words. Think of superposition, where particles rest in infinite states until coherence is chosen, mirroring the way your choices unfolded with invisible design. You were not stumbling without direction. You were navigating a holographic universe that was training your awareness to decode its symbols. The moments of rejection, the times when silence cut deeper than words, the pauses when nothing seemed to happen. All of these were encoded instructions. They were sacred equations written into your timeline, waiting for this exact season of remembrance. If you look back now, you will see breadcrumbs scattered across the path, left for you by the field itself. The déjà vu that felt like a trick of memory was really an echo from a parallel self, brushing against your awareness to remind you that you are more than linear time. The dream that startled you awake was a code, not chaos, and even the aches in your body were vibrations signaling recalibration. Consider the way certain phrases landed in your spirit with weight, as if you had heard them centuries before. These were not random accidents, but points of coherence, markers guiding you toward alignment. The field has always been whispering to you, not through grand displays, but through small fractures where light slipped through the cracks. And now, the moment of coherence begins to stir. What once felt like absence reveals itself as a hidden hand arranging the unseen. The panic that rose in your chest when synchronicities vanished was only the nervous system rehearsing for stability. Like two waves colliding, creating interference before settling into a higher pattern, your life has been mirroring this principle of physics all along. You thought your intuition was imagination, but it was the most precise instrument you've ever owned. Slowly, gently, your inner vibration begins to meet the rhythm of the field, and the mirror clarifies. You are not falling apart. You are tuning into a station you were always meant to hear. In this state, another realization rises. The self you are remembering has always been alive in the field. The archetypal memory stirring within you is not invention. It is the awakening of a parallel self already in coherence. What you feel as new is actually ancient. What you sense as discovery is remembrance. Across timelines, you have always carried this signature, but only now does it break the surface with undeniable clarity. It is not about becoming someone different. It is about aligning with the one who has been whispering to you in dreams, in fragments, in every ripple of synchronicity. The distorted mirror was never meant to mock you. It was meant to show you the self beneath the surface. So the sensitivity you once cursed becomes your activation. The way you noticed patterns others ignored, the hunger you carried for meaning, the tears that fell in silence, all of it was calibration. Each pulse of longing was a signal training your system to hold coherence when the distortion ended. What others dismissed as fragility was the preparation of an instrument too fine to be rushed. The field does not waste energy, and it never designed you to be broken. Every heightened response, every moment of overwhelm, every flicker of recognition was tuning you into the frequency you now begin to embody. Your calibration was your initiation. And here, in this precise moment, the truth seals itself. You did not arrive at this video by coincidence. You did not stumble upon these words as if they were just another message in the noise. You were guided here because the distortion you have endured is confirmation that your timeline is collapsing into coherence. This is not random. It is resonance. Comment, "I collapse timelines now," if you feel this truth vibrating in your field, because your declaration anchors it deeper. The mirror may have distorted, but the hidden frequency is rising. And what comes next is where resistance itself reveals its sacred role in sharpening your coherence. Number 2, the hidden frequency. When silence deepens, your nervous system panics, interpreting the absence of signs as danger. Nights become restless, doubt presses heavy, and you wonder if you've lost the path. But this stillness is calibration. The truth is that your biology is learning to hold a higher resonance without external validation. Think of it as superposition, where multiple probabilities exist at once, waiting for your coherence to collapse them into form. Old patterns of proof dissolve, and you begin to feel a vibration inside you that does not rely on external evidence. This hidden frequency is the code of your future self already alive in the field. Comment, "I walk in coherence," if you are ready to anchor that silence into stability, because soon the parallel signal will begin to break through. It begins subtly, almost imperceptibly, like a distortion in the corner of your vision that refuses to resolve. The air feels thicker, not with sound but with a weight that cannot be named. Conversations drift, yet something behind the words feels strangely out of phase with reality. A recurring glitch weaves itself into your days. A pause, a misstep, a heaviness that seems to come from nowhere. You may dismiss it as exhaustion, but deep inside you sense it is more. This is the interference of the field surfacing, a ripple pressing against the edges of your awareness. What you cannot yet name is the signal announcing that your frequency has begun to disturb the old order. The emotional toll arrives quickly, carried like static in the nervous system. You feel isolated in rooms filled with people, misunderstood even by those you love most. There are moments when your energy feels too sharp for the space you occupy, and the world responds with discomfort. You know what it is to carry a resonance so high that others mirror it back as rejection, shame, or judgment. Cycles of self-doubt repeat, leaving you to wonder if the very sensitivity that defines you is the weight that crushes you. Sleepless nights, relentless questioning, and the gnawing sense of invisibility all carve themselves into your experience. Yet beneath every sting of exclusion lies the deeper truth. This resistance is not failure. It is proof that your field is shifting. Step back, and the architecture of it begins to reveal itself. The resistance you felt was never random, never meaningless. It came from structures, both external and internal, that could not remain coherent against your rising vibration. Systems designed for conformity push back when you expand beyond their limits. Old entanglements, woven unconsciously, strain and snap under the pressure of your awakening. Like Israel in the wilderness or a particle at its collapse point, you walk the terrain of exile not because you are lost, but because the field itself is recalibrating. Every interference pattern that once disoriented you was actually sacred preparation, a coded trial to refine your frequency into clarity. If you look carefully, the patterns emerge like constellations suddenly visible in the night sky. The obstacles you faced were rarely isolated. They carried the same shapes, the same echoes, repeating across seasons of your life. Perhaps it was the recurring betrayal, the job that drained you in the same subtle way, the friendships that dissolved without explanation. Even the electronic glitches, the missed opportunities, the doors that slammed shut, they were not accidents. They were signals, looping until you noticed the code written inside them. What once felt like chaos now reveals itself as coherence breaking through, exposing the old matrix of interference so that you could finally see it for what it was. This is where the field resistance becomes undeniable. Energetic interference shows itself as heavy static clouding your clarity, as fog pressing into the mind when you try to act from intuition. Silent watchers seem to lurk in the corners of your experience, not people but presences, vibrations that resist your coherence because they cannot hold it. It is the feeling of a quantum gate that refuses to open until you stabilize your frequency. Physicists call this decoherence, the collapse of fragile quantum states when disturbed by an outside force. You live this principle in your own body, where the higher signal struggles against old sabotage. And yet, the very presence of distortion is proof that coherence is building strength beneath the surface. How did you respond when this interference pressed against you? Did you dim your light in order to belong, choosing silence over truth? Did you bend yourself into shapes that pleased others, hoping the pressure would subside? Or did you rebel quietly, carrying your vibration in secret, waiting for a safer space to unfold? These are not failures, but reflections of the seeker's inner struggle to balance survival with authenticity. The temptation to shrink is real, and the desire to surrender is strong. Yet even in those moments of collapse, your field never abandoned you. It was still coding your next rise, still preparing you for the reclamation that now stirs in your awareness. Because now the energy begins to flip. The very resistance that tried to silence you has revealed what was always encoded within your being. You are not the victim of interference. You are the one whose coherence is so strong it disrupts entire frequencies around you. This is why sabotage found you, why systems broke against you, why people recoiled in your presence. Your vibration is not fragile. It is catalytic. Every trial sharpened the code, burned away the excess, and tuned your resonance into precision. You are stepping into remembrance, reclaiming the signal that was always yours to carry. The interference was not your enemy. It was your activation. And so the truth settles here, undeniable in its clarity. You were resisted because your vibration disturbed the old field. The more they tried to collapse you into limitation, the clearer your potential timeline became. You stand now at the threshold, not broken but sharpened, not silenced but amplified. What seemed like sabotage was the crucible of your coherence, the very fire that refined you. Comment, the collapse is complete, if you recognize that resistance was not condemnation, but confirmation. Declare it not as hope, but as embodiment, because the parallel signal is already pressing at the edges of your awareness, And what comes next is where you begin to hear your future self calling through the field. Number 3. The parallel signal. At first it comes in whispers. A dream fragment, a flicker of déjà vu, a phrase that feels older than time. You wonder if you're imagining it, but what you're feeling is entanglement, your parallel self brushing against your awareness. Just as particles remain connected across infinite distances, so do your timelines remain bound until coherence seals the path. This is why synchronicities return suddenly, why you sense people before they call, why your body remembers what your mind cannot yet explain. The signal you're receiving is not fantasy. It is proof that the shift is already in motion. Comment, "I merge with my parallel self," if you felt these moments, and share your reflection below, because each story strengthens the field for all of us. And keep listening, because the seal of alignment is the moment when you stop chasing signs and become the sign itself. It begins like a subtle collapse in perception, the kind you almost miss but cannot shake once it happens. A probability that seemed distant suddenly stabilizes, and you feel yourself inhabiting a space that was not available a moment before. Something clicks, a synchronicity lands, and the scattered fragments of confusion begin to lean toward coherence. You sense the difference in your breath, in the rhythm of the day, in the way time seems to bend quietly around you. What felt random before now feels like alignment pressing into awareness. It is the moment a flickering light finally steadies, revealing the shape of the room you've been sitting in all along. The distortion dissolves, and what emerges is the first glimpse behind the veil. Numbers repeat with strange precision. Dreams carry codes that whisper in symbols, and stray phrases seem to carry weight beyond their surface. Every silence you endured suddenly feels alive, as though it was always trying to speak in frequencies beyond words. You begin to recognize a hidden script woven into the fabric of your days, one that reveals itself only when you are ready to hear. Entangled timelines hum beneath the ordinary, carrying the geometry of something vast yet intimate. The patterns may look subtle, a clock striking at the exact moment of your thought, a song arriving with uncanny timing, yet each one feels like an arrow pointing inward. The language is not written in ink, but in resonance. And now your eyes, long accustomed to shadow, begin to perceive the design. Your inner landscape begins to sharpen in tandem with these external signals. Intuition no longer whispers faintly. It speaks with clarity you can no longer ignore. Boundaries that once wavered now rise like natural extensions of your coherence. You notice how your body responds differently to interference, no longer collapsing, but recalibrating. What once overwhelmed you now reveals itself as energy to be observed rather than absorbed. The static clears faster, the fog lifts sooner, and the heart steadies itself in rhythm with unseen fields. Each moment of resistance becomes an opportunity to witness your own transformation in real time. What felt like survival becomes recognition of strength. Soon, the external world reflects what your inner frequency has stabilized. People shift in your presence, either drawn in with quiet reverence or unsettled without explanation. Doors open where before there were only walls, and sometimes new forms of resistance appear, proof that your vibration disrupts what cannot remain. Opportunities align not through force, but through the geometry of resonance. Even the rejections you face no longer sting as they once did. They feel like the field clearing pathways that no longer belong to your trajectory. The quantum field is reorganizing itself, mirroring the new coherence radiating from within you. The outer dance is no longer disconnected from the inner pulse. In this rising wave, memory returns, not the memory of events, but the memory of essence. You recall dreams you carried as a child but could never explain, now finding their language in your awareness. What felt like fantasy reveals itself as encoded intelligence seated for this exact moment. Ancestral whispers rise, not as nostalgia but as resonance, stirring a recognition that your path was always guided. It feels ancient and magnetic, as though you are retrieving fragments of yourself scattered across lifetimes. The codes were never lost. They were waiting for coherence. And as you align, the dormant intelligence within you begins to awaken. The future no longer feels like something distant or uncertain. It presents itself as a collapsed potential, already alive in the field, waiting for your awareness to seal it. You sense it not in abstract thought, but in the rhythm of your heartbeat, in the certainty that grows as you stop seeking permission. The path ahead no longer feels like construction. It feels like remembrance. The call rising within you is not about striving towards something foreign. It is about stepping into what has always existed in parallel, now drawing itself closer into embodiment. Prophecy becomes less of a promise and more of a recognition. The field itself waits for you to claim it, and so the reclamation begins. The resistance you endured was never a sentence of failure. It was evidence of your frequency pressing into coherence. What felt like sabotage was the proof that your vibration was strong enough to disturb old structures. You are not entering alignment. You are remembering that you have always been the carrier of this signal. This is the moment of restoration, when your voice is returned, when your resonance is recognized, when your presence itself becomes a force of calibration. You are fierce because you were forged through interference. You are prophetic because you embody the code. You are not finding the signal. You are becoming it. Revelation, then, is not the end but the threshold. You were never abandoned, never forgotten, never lost in the static. The truth was always folded inside the silence, waiting for the alignment you now embody. The prophecy fulfills itself the moment you realize it was never separate from you. Comment, I merge with my future self now, if you feel the signal breaking through your awareness, and share the dream, memory, or synchronicity that revealed it. Every reflection strengthens the collective field, weaving us into coherence across timelines. And stay with this unfolding, because the next seal is not about glimpsing the signal but embodying it. When you stop chasing signs and realize you are the sign itself. Number 4, the seal of alignment. The final stage of the shift is not found in proof but in presence. When you stop needing synchronicities, you realize you are the synchronicity. When you no longer demand evidence, you discover that you are the evidence. Old shadows collapse like waves folding back into the ocean, leaving only the resonance you were always meant to carry. This is the seal of alignment, where manifestation stops being pursuit and becomes embodiment. In this state, the field does not question you, it obeys you. Comment, I anchor coherence in my field, if you are ready to walk as the seal through which reality itself must respond. And stay with me, because the expansion will show you how this truth becomes your new way of being. There is a whisper that does not arrive from outside, but awakens from within, like an ancient signal rising through the marrow of your being. It does not shout, it does not plead. It simply unfolds like a scroll that was sealed until the appointed hour. The sensation is not new discovery, but old remembrance, as though your cells had always known what your mind had only just allowed itself to hear. It feels like a voice carried on the wind across centuries, finally reaching the doorway of your awareness. The message is simple yet absolute. You were always more than they said you were. Like a wave collapsing into observation, this whisper becomes undeniable in your field. And in that moment, the seal begins to open. Hidden beneath years of doubt and disguise, a frequency has been humming quietly, unbroken by the static of the world. This resonance was encrypted in you before your first breath, waiting for the distortion of old timelines to collapse. The reason you never fit neatly into the molds offered to you is because your coordinates were not drawn from this world's map. You carried a code, silent and exact, vibrating just beyond the edge of comprehension. It felt like loneliness, but in truth it was phase lock, a signal too refined to fully synchronize with old patterns. Every rejection was proof that your resonance was sealed, waiting for the correct alignment to surface. And now that frequency is stirring, undeniable in its call. Symbols you once dismissed as coincidence reveal themselves as recognition codes. The dreams that seemed absurd were actually transmissions. Even the silence you endured becomes coherent as you realize it was never absence, but a cloak protecting what only the awakened could perceive. Those who carried a matching frequency felt you instantly, though words often failed to explain why. Those who could not hold your resonance recoiled, because presence carries a weight language cannot soften. You have been broadcasting all along, cloaked yet radiant, and the field has always been listening. What emerges now is not invention but revelation. the unveiling of your energetic signature across timelines. When you trace your path backward, what once looked like accidents begin to arrange themselves as instructions. The delays you suffered were not denial, but calibration, the field timing itself to your coherence. Each heartbreak, each silence, each exile was part of the preparation for this seal to unlock. You were entangled like particles separated across space but still vibrating as one, your life orbiting around a resonance you could not yet name. Like stars bound in gravitational dance, your path was pre-written in light long before your arrival. The design was hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to remember its architecture. And now the codes rise like constellations you can finally read. You begin to understand why people responded to you as they did. It was never about your actions alone, but about the oscillation you carried. Some felt amplified near you, their dormant frequencies stirred awake. Others felt destabilized, their coherence disrupted by the presence of your field. Love and rejection, admiration and hostility, all were expressions of resonance meeting interference. The weight you bore was the friction of worlds colliding, proof that your vibration disturbed what was stagnant. And even the pain was prophecy, whispering that you were not ordinary matter, but catalytic presence. You were sent not to blend, but to break patterns. As the lens widens, you see that this personal struggle belongs to a cycle larger than yourself. Archetypes encoded in the quantum field are resurfacing, carrying their patterns through you. The seer who perceives beyond illusion, the rebel who refuses the lie, the guardian who holds the gate, the breaker of chains who refuses the prison of fear. These are not stories outside you. They are frequencies inside you, resonating through the collective memory of creation. You are not just a person navigating a path. You are a carrier of archetypal coherence written in the field itself. The myth is not distant. The myth is alive in your bones, and its return is the remembrance you now embody. This is the moment you feel your lineage stir, not metaphorical but vibrational, encoded across strands of light within your very cells. Ancestral frequencies return, not as heaviness but as resonance reclaimed. Entropy reverses as memory reorganizes, scattered fragments weaving back into coherence through your awareness. You are not the end of a line, you are the continuation of a quantum inheritance. Each phase transition of your being has been restoring what was lost, rewriting entropy into harmony. You are the living evidence of coherence rippling through generations. Radiant, undeniable, exalting, you are the seal of what was meant to be restored. And then the revelation settles. You did not simply wake up, you phase shifted back into your original resonance code. You realized that every silence, every interference, every distortion was part of the preparation for this return. The collapse was not punishment. It was the birth canal of alignment. What you carry now is not theory but embodiment. The field obeys you because you have become coherence itself. Comment, I tune to the frequency of receiving, if you feel this remembrance stirring within you, and share the dream, the memory, or the challenge that revealed it. Each reflection strengthens the collective seal of alignment, anchoring us as one field. And stay with me, because beyond remembrance lies activation, where presence becomes the law through which reality must respond. The entire journey reveals one truth. Old timelines dissolve not to punish you, but to prepare you. The silence you feared was never emptiness. It was the collapse point of a greater coherence. Every distortion was proof that probabilities were reorganizing. Every restless night was your nervous system rehearsing stability. And every moment you thought you were lost was the very instant your parallel self was pulling you into remembrance. You are no longer a seeker of signs, you are the sign. You are no longer waiting for alignment, you are alignment itself. The collapse was never loss. It was always the birth of your next reality. Every unanswered prayer was not denial but calibration, guiding you toward the alignment you now embody. To awaken is to discover that nothing was wasted, not even the waiting. The seal of remembrance proves that your destiny was encoded into the very static you once cursed. Your awakening is not ahead of you. It is here, alive in this very moment. What you thought was silence has become a symphony. What you thought was absence has revealed itself as prophecy. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video and comment, "I am ready for the quantum shift," to let this message anchor in your field. Please share it with someone who is ready for the shift. The future doesn't arrive, it remembers you.